There are a ton of superstars in the NBA. They all put up insane numbers, they put on highlight reels, and we just love watching them. It's entertainment at its finest. And it goes way beyond that. Businesses in the cities start to thrive, kids start dreaming, and a whole culture is born. But a curious question that popped into my mind is which of these superstars are so important that their team would practically fall into shambles without them? Well, I looked into it for you, and today we're going to go over some players who are so valuable that their teams literally can't survive without them. It might sound simple. I mean, you might say that no teams can survive without their superstar, but that's just not necessarily true. Take the GOAT, for example, Michael Jordan. In 1993, MJ's last season before his retirement, the Chicago Bulls were second in the Eastern Conference. They were a 57-win team and won just about 70% of their games. When he hung up his jersey to go play some minor league baseball, however, the Bulls didn't plummet. Not at all. In fact, in 1994, the season where MJ decided to pick up a baseball bat, the Chicago Bulls, led by Scottie Pippen, went on to win 55 games, which equates to about winning 67% of their games. Now, I know they didn't win a championship, but they went 7 games against a New York team that was 1 win away from winning the finals. The Chicago Bulls, after Michael's departure, for all intents and purposes, survived. Now let's fast forward about 2 decades and head to the modern NBA. I'm going to use the Clippers as a prime example. This season, without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, their 2 superstars, the Los Angeles Clippers are surviving. I mean, at this point today, they're practically locked in the 8th seed and have a guaranteed spot in the play-in tournament. They're not a championship caliber team by any stretch, and I wouldn't bet my money on them to play till June, but hey, you can't argue the fact that they survived without their 2 superstars. Okay, now comes the fun part. We've already looked at MJ's case, the Bulls survived without him, and looking into the Clippers' case, they survived without their 2 superstars. But now we're going to take a look at a few players who, without them, teams would spiral so out of control that they'd literally be in no man's land, holding a lottery ticket. The first of these players, you could probably guess, is LeBron James. In the 2010 season, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers were the #1 seed in the league with 61 wins and 21 losses. Unfortunately for LeBron that year, the Celtics blocked the road to the championship, and that's when he took his talents to South Beach. But what happened to the Cavaliers after he left? Did they drop a few seeds in the standings the following year? Did they go from 1st to maybe 4th, 5th, or 6th? Nope. They literally went from 1st in the conference all the way to dead last at 15th. LeBron is so important to his organization that he practically was the organization. Following the 4 years after his departure from Cleveland, the Cavaliers would be in the lottery every single season, year after year after year. That is, until LeBron returned in 2015. Then what happened after that? 4 straight finals appearances. Next off, look at what happened with him in the Lakers organization. The Lakers didn't make the playoffs for 5 consecutive years. Then, in LeBron's 2nd season with them, they won a championship. It's clear that whatever organization LeBron finds himself in, they just can't seem to survive without him. Next off here, we have Wardell Stephen Curry. It's funny how Steph Curry is here because, well, the Golden State Warriors play team basketball. Steve Kerr's motion offense is heavily predicated on player and ball movement, and it's actually quite strange to think they'd disappear completely off the map if Steph Curry wasn't on the floor. But the numbers don't lie. In the 2021 season, when Steph Curry was on the floor, the Warriors scored an average of 115 points per game, which would be good enough for a top 10 offense. When he was off the floor, the Warriors scored an average of 104.9 points per game, which would put them pretty close to dead last in the league. Speaking of dead last, in the 2020 season, the Warriors were dead last in the league. They won 15 games, which equates to a winning percentage of 23. When Steph came back in 2021, that win ratio more than doubled from 23% to 54%. But let's not stop here. Also in 2021, when Steph Curry was playing games, the Warriors had a 58.7 winning percentage. But when he wasn't playing, the Warriors had a 22.2 winning percentage, which was actually lower than the previous year. Now let's fast forward to the 2022 season, where the Warriors have a better overall roster. With Steph Curry on the floor, the Warriors have a 70% winning ratio. But without him on the floor this season so far, the Warriors have a 25% winning ratio. Sheesh, guys. I'm a diehard Warriors fan. I think you all know that by now, and I love the current roster, but these numbers are really alarming. Without Curry, the Warriors literally are headed to the lottery. Next off here, I gotta mention Chris Paul, the point guard. Love him or hate him, if you look at his resume and what he's been able to achieve in his career, it's hard to deny that teams can't survive without him. Let's start off with his departure from the Houston Rockets back in 2019. The man was sent to a rebuilding team in OKC where everyone thought that it'd be it for his career. I mean, arguably their second best player that season was a second-year guard, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But instead of going into just a rebuilding year, look at what CP3 did for OKC. The previous year when they had the 27 MVP Russell Westbrook, they had a 59.8 winning percentage, which was good for 6th in the West. But after Chris Paul arrived, instead of dropping in the standings, they actually won 61.1% of their games and moved up to 5th in the West. And on top of that, they were just 3 points shy of an upset against the Houston Rockets in Game 7. Next off, when CP3 joined the Phoenix Suns, they stunned the NBA world. The Phoenix Suns, for 10 literal straight years, did not make the playoffs. Not once. During that bubble run in 2020, although they won 8 straight games to close off the season, they were still on the outside looking in. Fast forward 1 year, the Phoenix Suns acquired a 35-year-old point guard, and lo and behold, not only did they make the playoffs, but they were 2 games shy of winning a championship. Now, this season when the Suns were without their all-star point guard, they are 11-4. It may look like the Suns can survive without him, but I believe the leadership that he provides off the court really translate to his team still winning games. I don't have the statistics to back this up because it hasn't happened, of course, but if CP3 were to leave the Suns, I don't see them making the playoffs next season. Well, actually, the West is a lot weaker now than compared with previous years, but if CP3 wasn't on the Suns for whatever reason next season, they'd probably be in the play-in tournament. They'd survive, but they'd be on crutches. Last off here, I want to bring up the topic of another superstar, namely Ja Morant. He's one of the most exciting players to watch in today's NBA. I mean, he's two-hand blocking shots off the backboard. He almost ended Kevin Love's career, and he's averaging 27.6 points a ball game with decent efficiency. I mean, about 49% from the field, 34% from beyond the arc, and 76% at the free throw line. And on top of this, he's grabbing 5.7 rebounds a game and dishing out 6.7 assists per game. He's actually more efficient and scoring more points than Derrick Rose did in his MVP season. But the question is today, can his team survive without him? Well, I looked up the statistics on StatMuse and I was a bit shocked. Here it is. So, with Morant, the Memphis Grizzlies in 2022 have a 35-21 record. Pretty good. That translates to a 62.5 winning percentage. But hear me out on this one. As per the numbers show, in all the games the Grizzlies played without Ja Morant this season, they are 18-2. 18 wins and 2 losses. I ain't saying the Grizzlies are better without Morant on the floor, I'm only showing the numbers. Numbers aren't everything in basketball, they aren't everything in life because, well, they're just numbers. But when they don't align, it's always worth a closer look. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed.